Here we go. Our last peep at division by division, team by team post draft reviews. We've got the NFC West on today's program, the Arizona Cardinals, the Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, and the San Francisco 49ers. How are these teams built now for 2023 and beyond? Coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL on Twitter. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Shout out to all of the everydayers out there. We appreciate you. Make sure you're subscribed up on our new YouTube channel and find us everywhere you listen to your podcasts. Okay, Matt, NFC West, and you've had some nuggets with cap information with these teams as well, for this year and next year, which, always plays a role in how teams are built and how teams are drafting for now and the future.
Yeah, no doubt. And I would say that of all the 8 divisions, this has been a fun series, and bring it on home with your division. This one's the least cap notable, I would say. Right now the Rams are pretty tight. They only have 1.7, so they might need to move some things around to get all their draft picks under contract, etc. Your Niners have 10, Seattle has 8, fine. Zona's the most comfortable. They have 16, so they could make some moves. They could roll some over. Next year's kind of interesting, though. I mean, you're probably aware of this, but your Niners are in the worst shape by far. I mean, they're right now are minus 12 million. The Rams are the best shape. They got 53 million. And Seattle is 24, Arizona is 27, which is in the bottom third towards the middle. So I don't know what you're probably more on top of the Niners situation. I'm sure there's some contracts they can move around and make that more feasible. But as it stands right now, they have some work to do in the offseason.
Yeah, when it comes to the Niners, we'll talk more about that. And the reasons why I didn't love their draft is they need to get cheap in a lot of places on their roster because they've got a couple of $100 million of future cap spent already on some of their star players, and they have a lot of star players. Nick Bosa going to be the next one.
He isn't even signed yet,
right? To become the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL this offseason. So future money will be tight with the 49ers with how many stars they have to pay at numerous positions, which is a good problem to have in a lot.
Of course, that's what you want.
The Arizona Cardinals, Matt, let's start there. Yeah. They don't really have that problem right now. They've got an expensive quarterback who's currently injured, and this is a team probably with a new head coach, new GM now this year, a new direction, and they might be a team that's in the running for that number 1 overall pick in the 2024 draft, which could really change the conversation about what their quarterback is going to be. Or maybe it's just a haul of picks that they end up getting, and they love Kyler Murray, and he comes back this year, and everything goes in that direction. So a lot of ifs and what ifs could happen in the future with this team. But let's look at how the draft turned out this year for them. And I think you've got to grade them pretty high on getting extra assets and then coming away with Paris Johnson Jr., who was the rumored player draft morning that they were going to take at number 3, and they get him at number 6, and they add a future first-round pick. So I think that was a really important move for the Arizona Cardinals. They get the best offensive tackle, their best offensive lineman in this class, and they add future picks. Kudos to them on that move.
Yes, and to me, that's the biggest part of this draft is not only did you pick up a future first, but it's the Texans' future first. And maybe Houston isn't one of the worst teams in the league, but I can't even picture a scenario where they make the playoffs. I mean, I think there's a much better chance they have 2 picks in the top 5 than even one of them outside the top 15. You know what I mean? So I think you have 2 big-time picks. And what I believe, and everyone says this every year, is a better draft next year than last year. And in the meantime, a starting left tackle, hopefully for the next decade, is a good place to start.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so they're going to the trenches to start their draft with the Arizona Cardinals. Paris Johnson at 6. I will say everyone had Paris Johnson as their top tackle. I really liked Broderick Jones. He needed more work, I think, than Paris Johnson, but I think there's potential for him to be better than Paris Johnson. And I don't know if it was worth moving back up from 12 to 6. to get Paris Johnson. So I'll say that
I
they
know what you
did
mean.
they gave away some of their value. And I said the same thing about the Miami Dolphins in 2021. They moved back with the 49ers at pick 12. I thought pick 12's value was not worth going back up again to pick 6. The exact same move that the Arizona Cardinals pulled off in this draft, which takes away some of that value. For the Miami Dolphins, they gave up a future first rounder when they did it, though. For the Cardinals, they just gave up that early second round pick this year.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. And I do agree with what you said there, because it's not like, sure, they were linked to Paris Johnson at 3 even. So they apparently love the guy. Fine, I get that. But is he that much different than Broderick Jones, or for that matter, Skoronski or Wright? I mean, on an offensive line that could kind of use a little bit of everything. I understand the true left tackle aspect of it. But to even take it a step further, if you would have sticked and picked, after the trade with the Texans, my only criticism of this draft is their D line is still unbelievably bad. I mean, it didn't have to be a tackle in the first round. It could have been the best defensive lineman available too.
Or just could have been best player available. Like, this is a long term.
Yeah.
This is a rebuild.
Right,
this is a long term proposition. But they do have talent at quarterback. But that quarterback obviously not going to play early in the season. But they did draft a quarterback. More on Clayton Tune in a second.
Mm-hmm.
BJ Ojulari, outside linebacker / edge rusher, defensive end, stand-up type rusher out of LSU with the 10th pick in the second round for the Arizona Cardinals. And this is a selection that I like a lot. Pretty easy to see Jonathan Gannon coming from Philadelphia. And here's your Hassan Reddick, speed outside rusher. And man, I just actually went and looked because I was like, man, he was so much like his older brother Azeez Ojulari coming out of the draft a couple of years ago. And I like both Ojularis. I really liked Azeez. Thought he was a fantastic pick by the Giants. I think he had 8 sacks his rookie year. I think older brother Azeez had a little bit more power to his rush game, but I think BJ's maybe a little bit faster than his older brother. They were identical, 6'2.5". One was 248, one was 249 pounds, both with over 34-inch arms, even though they're not the biggest guys. Both had long arms, which obviously helps as a pass rusher. Because I just went, just before we went on the air, I was like, man, they're pretty similar. They're nearly identical.
And they're not twins,
Yeah, they're not, no.
Right.
They play the same position and a very similar style. So, I like that pick. I think that's good value, and clearly great value if they get a Hassan Reddick-style pass rusher out of B.J. Ojulari. And if he's like his brother and has a hot start to his career, I think you're going to be happy with that second-round pick.
Yeah, and again, premium positions, not quarterback. I mean, and nor should you be in the quarterback market right now. So I understand the process without a doubt, as well as the Eagle connection. They did finally, they got a pass rusher. I mean, I still think their D-line and their pass rush is going to be horrible this year, but Rome wasn't built in a day,
Right, yeah. So really good start. Maybe not an A+ start for me. Picking nits here, but getting that future first, huge, and getting an offensive tackle and a pass rusher like that. Going into round 3, Garrett Williams, Syracuse cornerback, then Michael Wilson, late third round, Stanford wide receiver, John Gaines, UCLA guard in the 4th round. So clearly the trenches were important, and some high leverage positions here were important for the Arizona Cardinals in this draft. They came back in round 5 with Clayton Tune out of Houston. Owen Pappoe, the linebacker from Auburn in round 5. They had multiple thirds, multiple fifths, multiple sixths. Keitrell Clark, Louisville cornerback in round 6, and they finished it up with Dante Stills, West Virginia, sort of a end/tackle out of West Virginia. Dante Stills at the end of round 6. So that is the Arizona Cardinals draft, Matt. What were your thoughts on day 2 and 3? Did you have a favorite pick in this class?
I thought there was a lot of buzz, and I mean, frankly, it's just a fact. Garrett Williams would have went a lot higher had he not had injury concerns. Probably not round 1, but you bought him at a discount. And for this team, that's the perfect kind of way to do things. Like, I am not going to be too sad if I end up with the first overall pick and Williams doesn't play half the year, but boy, he looks great at the end of the year and he's a future starter. I did like Wilson. I got really fond of him at the Senior Bowl. I think he'll play for them. Gaines is a great tester, and great testers usually translate pretty well at guard. I mean, especially with change of direction stuff. My favorite, I thought Tune was my favorite of those quarterbacks that went in that neighborhood too. He was part of that run. Dante Stills may end up being a tweener that doesn't really fit anywhere, which is probably why he's a round 6 guy, but I thought he could have gone 80 picks higher. I mean, he's a pretty explosive dude.
You know, what's funny is I felt the same way. I watched Dante
Yeah.
Stills because I saw him in a lot of mock drafts and in that 5th round range. And I saw him to the 49ers and my co-host Eric Crocker and I on Locked On 49ers, we did a scouting the mock series. And so if whatever players were in mock drafts, we would take a look at them and we'd scout them. I looked at Dante Stills and I think that they had him in the 5th round to the 49ers. And I thought, nope, don't like it. He looks like that tweener that's not really an end or a tackle to me, and less of a
maybe.
But we'll see what he ends up looking like, and he has some ability, and he's a try-hard player, so he might stick. My favorite player was the first 6th round pick for the Cardinals, though, Keitrell Clark out of Louisville. So really nice job in the first couple of rounds to get some high-impact positions, then getting 2 cornerbacks that I think are going to stick. Keitrell Clark is absolutely going to stick. He's not the biggest guy. It's why he was there in the 6th round, but he's twitchy, athletically, 5'10", only 181 pounds, but plays bigger. He's got that mentality. And shout out to our guy, Keith Sanchez. Do you remember that Keitrell Clark was one of his favorites?
Oh, yeah.
Gave him a 2nd round grade.
That's good stuff. That was actually the first I heard of Keitrell Clark whenever he mentioned him. So, and I think needless to say with this class, not a lot of obstacles in their way for playing time either. We should see a lot of rookie snaps from these guys this year.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. We've got the Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks, and the San Francisco 49ers draft classes of 2023 next. Built Bar. You're looking for those delicious snacks. I know you are, but you don't want all the sugar and calories. Of course you don't. Then you got to try the best tasting protein bar ever, and that is Built. Whether it's Built Bars, Built Puffs, or Matt, I don't know if you've seen this, the newest Built Crispy Bars.
I've heard. I have not tried yet. Yeah.
Chewy, delightful bars, satisfy your taste buds, and loaded with protein, even more protein. Most Built Bars come with about 16, 17 grams of protein. The Built Crispy Bars, 20 grams of protein in only a 170 calorie package. Flavors like peanut butter crispy and mint chocolate crispy. Any of the peanut butter flavors I love. The OG peanut butter is back in stock. The peanut butter bar at Built. That's one of my favorites. Check out the macros though. Even compared, of course, compared to candy bars, you're getting all that sugar and you want to throw that out. Built Bars, most Built Bars, the coconut flavor I'm looking at right now, 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, only 2.5 grams of fat, only 4 grams of net carbs, and only 4 grams of sugar. Compare that to even some other protein bars, and you're getting almost twice as much protein and half as many calories. So you got to check out Built Bar today. All the flavors and varieties at built.com, and you can find them on your store shelves as well now, including your local Walmart and Sam's Club. So run in, grab some Built Bars, thank us later, and find all the flavors at built.com.
BP, before you get started on the Rams, I'm going to throw something out there real quick, if you don't mind. There's a misconception with this team that they hate draft picks. Well, even when they weren't having first rounders forever, they always make a lot of picks. They trade down, they get comp picks, and this year's the epitome of that. They brought in 14 dudes. And I've often joked, and it's not even a joke. It's kind of embarrassing. Go to ourlads.com and look at their defense still. It's insane.
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious. What's that?
It's hilarious that you bring that up because last night, less than 12 hours ago, I was recording with Crocker doing the 49ers podcast. Yeah. And one of the questions we brought up is are people putting to bed the Rams too early? Because they still have some star players. They're still well coached. And I went to Our Lads, looked at their depth chart, and it's just lit up like a Christmas tree with green, which is the color of rookies. They're going to play a lot of rookies this year. They're absolutely in a retooling mode. I have no idea which direction this team's going to go. The over-under on wins for them is 7.5. I would not be shocked if, a healthy Kupp and a healthy Donald and a healthy Matthew Stafford with Sean McVay is enough to get them over, that 8-win plateau. But I wouldn't be shocked if they're one of the worst teams in the league either, because they're very barren, especially on the defensive side of the ball, aside from Aaron Donald. So I have no idea which way this team's going to go, but I really like their draft class, and they brought in a ton of competition.
So here's the nugget I wanted to throw out there about the defense is Ernest Jones is a quality starting off the ball linebacker. Fine. And Aaron Donald's Aaron Donald. But if you take those two out of the equation and look at the other 9 projected starters, which is subject to change, but if it changes, it's going to be supplanted by rookies. I forget what podcast I heard this on. The average number of snaps those 9 starters played last year is just over 200. None of these guys were counted on their old team. None of them even hardly played last year. Christian Roseboom,
It's so funny.
Sean Jolly. I mean, like, who are these people?
It's amazing. We just went through this, and there were players like you could just throw a fake name in, and you wouldn't have known the difference because and even if they're not rookies playing, they're probably a lot of year 2 guys that we didn't see a lot.
Exactly.
And they're not high draft picks because the Rams haven't had a lot.
No, right.
Volatile team. I have no idea which way this is going to go. And if there's more injuries to their star players, then yeah, this could be one of the worst teams in the league. Might be battling with the Cardinals for the number 1 pick in the draft. But if they're in the playoffs, would you be that shocked? Like, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. But why did Sean McVay, who was considering going to the booth, why did Aaron Donald? Why did they come back? They didn't come back to tank, right?
I don't know. I think that's really interesting. They do have $53 million in cap space a year from now. Maybe it's just one really bad year and you end up with one of those stud quarterbacks and McVay gets to totally reshape the team. I've been really digging into fantasy lately, and I will say it's a little volatile, but I think I can buy in on the Rams offense. Akers, Kupp, right. But the defense, no. I mean, there's one good player.
You have to outscore some people.
Yeah. But I think they're going to win 5 games.
Very likely chance that they're drafting in the top half of the first round next year when they finally have another first round pick, and it's been since 2016. Steve Avila was their first selection here, guard out of TCU in the second round. Byron Young, Tennessee defensive end / outside linebacker, speed rusher in round 3. Their second, third round pick was Kobe Turner, defensive tackle from Wake Forest. Came back in round 4. Stetson Bennett going pretty high in this class, despite his age. Obviously, a lot of wins in college at the University of Georgia, national championships under his belt. The quarterback Stetson Bennett going in round 4 to the Los Angeles Rams, coming back with 4 fifth-round picks, all at the end of the 5th round. So just back to back, boom. Nick Hampton, App State linebacker. Warren McClendon, Georgia offensive tackle. Davis Allen. I'm just saying it right now, my favorite pick of the draft for them was Davis Allen, Clemson tight end. I think he's going to be a starting wide tight end in the NFL. Has that basketball athleticism, can go up and get the football, has enough quicks in the short area. Not a supreme athlete, but he's got size, can actually block in line, unlike a lot of tight ends coming out of college. So love the Davis Allen pick for the Los Angeles Rams, maybe the starting tight end post Higbee there for them. Puka Nacua, BYU wide receiver. Travius Hodges Tomlinson, corner out of TCU in round 6. Nebraska edge, Sean Mathis. There was Zach Evans, Ole Miss running back in round 6. And then 3 more 7th round picks. We're not even done. Ethan Evans out of Wingate, the punter. Jason Taylor, the second, Oklahoma State safety. And Deshaun Johnson, I believe is how you pronounce his first name. I can't remember how he pronounces his first name.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But the Toledo defensive end there to finish up the draft. 14 draft picks for the Los Angeles Rams here. So a lot of competition there for a lot of open spots, I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, anyone on defense has a chance of playing time no matter where you're drafted. I mean, frankly, I think it's that obvious with this team. I love the Avila pick. I mean, at 36, he's going to play and play well. Boom, great. They need that. Keep Stafford, a little bit intact up the middle. I'll be honest, though. I mean, they made 14 picks. We just laughed about the anonymity of their defense and not knowing who most of these guys are. O'Shawn Mathis doesn't change that for me, or Deshaun Johnson. I mean, these aren't household names. I mean, Stetson Bennett's the household name, and they probably overdrafted him as a backup quarterback. I mean, LT's nephew is a household name, but, Zach Evans. But these guys are the defense didn't get loaded with, high pedigree guys. My favorite pick, though, is probably Puka.
Puka Nacua, the wide receiver from BYU.
Golden Tate-ish.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, somewhat built like a running back a little bit. And that's sort of like the Rams are just cornering the market on sort of, medium size, not top speed, but that can get open, make plays after the catch, short to intermediate slot type wide receivers.
Right, exactly. Or Tutu Atwell that's as big as my right leg.
Well, right, yeah.
But I don't love this class either. Like, I don't know many of these dudes.
Like the most famous names in your draft class is that Travius Hodges Thompson's related to Hall of Fame running back LaDainian Tomlinson in the 6th round, 5'8". I like the way he plays, but he's not very big. 5'8", 178 is why he was drafted so late. and Stetson Bennett because of what he did in college. Is he the classic, played on a great team in college and is just a, long-term backup. But I don't know how much impact they got in this draft. They got a lot of depth for sure. And, if someone like Davis Allen and Nakua and, maybe Hodges Tomlinson becomes your starting nickel for you down the road, you get that development from your third round edge and defensive tackle and Byron Young and Turner. There's a lot of talent there. It could be a really good draft class, but right now, they got one starter in Avila and the rest is like, we'll see. Maybe it's just some depth, but 14 pieces of depth is quite a bit of depth. And there's going to be a lot of competition for playing time, especially on defense.
Maybe Zach Evans even becomes a starting running back. You mentioned Tomlinson. He has to project to the slot, though. He's so tiny, but his tape is awesome at TCU, but he's an outside corner there.
Outside, right.
That's new for him, too. I mean, just because he can't hold up at the outside at the next level, they might get nothing out of this class besides Avila, but all these guys will, just like the Cardinals, will have plenty of opportunities, especially on defense.
Another sleeper fantasy running back too, right? And Zach Evans.
Yeah, I have him kind of high in my dynasty ranks. We'll get to that maybe next week.
I believe our next podcast Monday, we might start diving into those Matt Williamson dynasty rankings. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. And did you say if you had a favorite pick? Mine was
I think it was Puka Nakua.
Puka, yeah, right. Okay.
Maybe Zach Evans.
Yeah. I mean, I do like the Avila pick too. I think they
easy one. Yeah.
Nice pick there. And they really needed some help in the trenches too. So smart for them to go there with all three of their first picks.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, that is the Los Angeles Rams draft. Such an interesting team, such a wild team. And I think this season is clearly about, it's about competition. It's about depth. And you mentioned the cap earlier too. It's about sort of taking their medicine a little bit with what they've done in the past, trading away high picks and, high priced players and maybe more of a, it's a rebuild, but maybe more of a standard rebuild than the stars and scrubs we've seen of the past. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they'll trade away that first round pick next year too.
Maybe they'll trade Kupp, Stafford, and Donald. That's
true. Maybe they'll go the other way, go full. Right. Fascinating team. All right. Next, we've got the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. Clearly the class of this division in 2023. Next. Thanks, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Shout out to all the everydayers. We're talking dynasty football rankings, talking rookies and their fantasy perspective now and going forward next week on the podcast. And, of course, checking in more on other teams, OTAs, and getting ready for training camp in the 2023 NFL season. Make sure you're subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Here we go, Seattle Seahawks, and they had another really good draft, Matt. I mean, they have added so much young talent to their football team in the last 2 seasons. The best draft in the NFL, I think, last year, and 2 more first-round picks to play with this year, 2 more second-round picks this year, and it started with Devin Witherspoon, pick number 5 in round 1, the corner from Illinois, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba, wide receiver from Ohio State, the best corner, the best wide receiver in this class in round 1.
Yeah, I preferred Gonzalez, but splitting hairs, and obviously the NFL disagreed with me. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, no question about that. So I'm going to pick nits here for a second. My 2 criticisms of this draft, and I like their class, and I'm going to say mostly positive, but I'm going to get the negative out of the way, is I think you could say, man, I wish you ended up with more trench help, especially D-line, with the assets you had, 2 firsts, 2 seconds. And I'm sure I'm speaking for you on this one. You probably wouldn't have taken Zach Charbonnet with a 56 overall pick or 52nd overall pick.
Yeah, it wasn't egregious where he was taken, but just what the team has. And then they came back with Kenny McIntosh, which I love. Right. Like the reason you don't draft Zach Charbonnet in the second round is because you can get a Kenny McIntosh in the 7th round. Yeah. And that's sort of the point to all this with the running backs. Like they use, if you we just talked about Evans from Ole Miss to the Rams. Like you can find good running backs on day 3. So don't force it, especially if you need help at those positions that are much harder to find. And we'll see what Derek Hall ends up looking like, the edge from Auburn, who they drafted high in the 2nd round here. He's going to be real key to this because, I think that defensive line is probably where you're looking at with the Seattle Seahawks and thinking, if they're not going to be up to snuff, it's either, a regression from Geno Smith at quarterback or that defensive front doesn't hold up. And so a big
Yeah.
pick for them, the early second round, of course, Charbonnet, player I like. And, as far as fantasy goes with the running back position now, Kenneth Walker, I have no idea what to do about their running back situation. Just draft the last guy, I guess.
Just to tease it, I mean, no two players dynasty stock went more down the second they drafted Charbonnet than Charbonnet and Walker. Walker was going, they both just took massive hits. Like, oh no.
And maybe it's a signal that they're not sure about Kenneth Walker's help.
Yeah,
and
Charbonnet. Yeah. I thought that too. And Charbonnet's a much better receiver, so he brings a different wrinkle. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it might be Pete Carroll just kind of like being like my grumpy old dad that just doesn't care what anybody thinks of him anymore and says, hey, we're going to run the ball and I'm going to have good running backs, like it or not,
I think that's part of it. And I think that's part of it with Jahmyr Gibbs, part of it with Bijan Robinson. It's really hard if you're in a draft room and you stack a board and you have Zach Charbonnet ranked really high. And you get to your pick and you're like, well, this guy's got the best grade. So it's hard not to draft him that way. So you almost have to it has to be part of your process to bake in that positional value, I think, because otherwise you're going to take running backs earlier than you should because there's a lot of good ones and they're going to have high grades, right? Because they're good players and their running backs are fun. I don't hate running backs. I just, don't like their value for building your team and what you could get there in the second round that could really help you add wins to your team in the future, unless you know something about Ken Walker.
Tackle or, right. But there maybe is Walker stuff out there.
For sure. Anthony Bradford, LSU guard to start the day 3 draft picks for the Seattle Seahawks. Came back with Cameron Young in round 4, defensive tackle from Mississippi State. Mike Morris, Michigan defensive end in round 5. Oluwatimi, center from Michigan in round 5. Round 6, Jarek Reed, New Mexico safety. And then, as we mentioned before, Kenny McIntosh, the second running back in this class, Georgia running back in round 7. And I heard the phone call from John Schneider, Seattle Seahawks GM, to Kenny McIntosh. And he's like, hey, Kenny, we're going to draft you right here because you had no business still being on the board. And, they love themselves some running backs. So they snatched him up. But RIP to Kenny McIntosh being stuck behind Charbonnet and Walker now on that depth chart, because Kenny McIntosh would have been one of my favorite sleeper running backs probably in this class if he went somewhere else.
I heard some people that, draftniks saying maybe Kenny McIntosh is a slot at the next level. Like, I could see he's that good a receiver. But they drafted the best slot receiver in the draft at the 20th pick, too. Like, he got blocked every which way possible. I like this draft. I don't adore it. I think people are a little too high on the Seahawks overall. I mean, they had a really good draft last year, and they had 7 picks in these last 2 drafts in the first 2 rounds that should pay off. But I know we're talking draft classes, but do we know Geno Smith's good all of a sudden? The last month and a half or so, he was pretty average,
Right. And that season was the outlier of his career. Right. And even then, it's a small sample of, okay, which games was he actually great? And they kind of fell off and they weren't ready to be that playoff team and do a lot of damage against good teams late in the season. So that is a great question. But, I still like a lot of the talent that the Seahawks brought in. And a lot of it is because they got those extra first round picks.
Sure. I mean, Russell Wilson is paying off for them in a big way right now.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite?
The key to last season was getting, a star starting cornerback in the 5th round. Like, did they get that on top of starters at corner and wide receiver in round 1? Does Charbonnet turn out to be the star running back for them and not Kenneth Walker? Is Oluwatimi a long-term starting center for them out of Michigan? Maybe that would be my favorite pick, though, is Kenny McIntosh. 7th round running back.
Good player.
You draft a guy, Kenny McIntosh in his career could be a starting running back, and you got him in the 7th round. That's why you don't draft first round running backs.
Yeah, I like it. I thought Derek Hall was a little overdrafted. I thought they got a steal in Smith-Njigba. But just for what this team is, I'm going to say Bradford and Oluwatimi are my favorite, just because they're big physical interior linemen that probably stick. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying they're going to be the next, Tariq Woolen, in the mid rounds, but they might get starters at center and guard, and we know they want to run the ball.
And I know we usually pick more sleeper variety players as our favorite picks in the draft because of value, but Jackson Smith-Njigba at pick 20 in the first round to get the first wide receiver in this class, who's somebody who I think could be a target hog for them. I mean, he might be their Cooper Kupp, right, on offense, and especially with the wide receivers that went right after it. I thought there was a gap, and they went 20, 21, 22, 23. And I thought the Seahawks got huge value there with Jackson Smith-Njigba just hanging out and getting him at pick 20.
Not to mention, I mean, Lockett, Metcalf, Smith-Njigba are all very physically different, very age different. I like that they're staggering them a little bit there.
Right.
One can take over for the other, and it works with contracts and things of that nature. Learn from Lockett, so that works out really well. That's as good a trio as there is in the league almost. I mean, maybe I'd have the Bengals ahead of them, but that's one of the best trios in the league now.
Yeah, the complementary nature too, and I always like the basketball theory of building your wide receiver group and your tight end group. Your tight end is your center, and then you got a power forward and a small forward and a shooting guard and a point guard at wide receiver, right? Mm-hmm. I like that, and that's kind of how the Seattle Seahawks are built at wide receiver now. And I did read post draft that Smith-Njigba is going to be the slot guy this year, and who knows what it looks like later. And once Lockett's gone, maybe he works more outside, but he's going to be a pure slot for now.
And we maybe buried the lead. I mean, Woolen and Witherspoon might be the best pair of corners in the league for the next 5 years, too.
I mean, yeah, if Smith-Njigba is what we think he is, and Devin Witherspoon is what the Seahawks think he is, and he is that shutdown corner on that side, I mean, look out. This could be another just insane class.
But do they have a quarterback? I keep coming back to that. I'm like, Gino's fine. I just don't know that he's the guy.
And they're going to win too many games to draft one of the top quarterbacks next year.
Right.
To get into this quarterback purgatory area.
I think that's a concern.
The San Francisco 49ers up next. They, because of their weird quarterback stuff, did not have a first-round pick, and because they traded away the rest of their early picks for Christian McCaffrey, they didn't have their second or third-round pick, but they're playing the comp pick game and had a bunch of extra third-round picks for the comp selections there. So they drafted 3 times late round 3, had 3 fifth-round picks, had 3 seventh-round picks in this draft. So saved their class with a lot of comp picks, but of all the drafts in the NFL, Matt, and look, this is how you know I'm not a homer for my hometown San Francisco 49ers that I cover right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I gave them the worst grade of any team in the entire draft this year. I gave them a D+. And part of that is because they drafted a kicker. When you don't have a lot of picks, and you spend one of those third-round picks, number 99, on a kicker, you're probably not going to get a good grade. And the reason why is even if he is the best kicker in this class, historically, you don't get good return from a rookie kicker, period. So you're chasing need there, and you're not going to get that need that you're chasing most likely. And it's still unlikely that he's going to be good for you early in his career. And if he does become good, it might be for another team in his 30s.
And I think you cited this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a very low percentage of drafted kickers sign a second contract with the same team. I've heard that somewhere. I thought you might have told me that after the Moody thing, or
so it was, and not including this draft now, the 10 drafts before. For 10 years, there have been 17 kickers drafted. Only one of those 17 kickers got a second contract with the team that drafted.
Wow. That's unbelievable to me.
It's crazy, right?
Because it's not even a big contract.
You don't get kickers by drafting them. It's nuts. And there was multiple kickers drafted in this draft. But again, it's sort of like the running back thing. The one you'll get an okay grade if you draft one in the 6th or 7th round. If they don't cut it for you, whatever. It's just not a big deal. But when you need picks and you have future cap issues and you need young players to fill out your roster, that kicker better hit if you're drafting them in the 3rd round, inside the top 100 picks.
Yeah, it better be like a top 10 kicker and be there for a dozen years for you. I mean, he doesn't have to be Tucker, but I mean, he better be good. It's probably not a coincidence that we're ending with the Niners. Of course, they're your team. You gave them the worst grade. This is my least favorite draft as well of the 32, considering the resources, and talked about some of these drafts that aren't littered with household names. I don't know a ton about the Winters and Braden Willis and Ronnie Bell. I mean, there's not a lot of huge, even, Luter. I mean, some of these guys weren't projected particularly high. I do think, and I'm sure you've touched on this on Niners, there is a special teams feel to this and a depth feel to this. And we opened the show by saying they're the worst cap situation of the division next year. I don't know that many of these guys project to be cheap starters, like you kind of mentioned.
So, we'll go through these picks a little bit closer here and mention all of them.
Yeah, go.
Ji'ayir Brown, the 49ers moved up in round 3 to get Ji'ayir Brown, and clearly they saw a need current and future at free safety. Penn State safety, Ji'ayir Brown. Player I loved on tape.
Yeah.
Not the most athletic guy as far as speed. I think short area quicks are great. Love the way he plays. He's really very similar to the guy they hit on a couple years ago in the 5th round in Talanoa Hufanga. So I think they went back well there and very similar evaluation there. He got their gold helmet for smarts and toughness and leadership and all those things. So, he's a gold helmet player. They loved him. They went up to get him. He might start next year after Tashawn Gibson's 1-year contract is over. And very similar player to Tashawn Gibson, by the way, and tested very.
Yeah. No, he'll fit. He's a good player.
So, they probably got a future starter there at least. Then they came back in round 3 with a third round pick, Cameron Latou, Alabama tight end. I think he's kind of a one-speed tight end. Doesn't really blow me away athletically as a pass catcher or really a blocker, but he has kind of potential at both. And he's a pretty smooth athlete in space, but not, it's like, okay, you back, then you got George Kittle. So I don't know if the traits are there for him to be a tight end 1 in the NFL. You're drafting a backup tight end in the 3rd round. Great for depth. Right. They needed that, and they're clearly scouting tight ends. They drafted another tight end in the 7th round, Braden Willis. I don't think there was that big of a gap between the grades of the 3rd rounder in Latou and the 7th rounder in Braden Willis. But let me stop you real quick. I bet that it drives you crazy knowing you as well as I do in terms of position value. Strong safety, kicker, backup tight end, and then those are your 3 premium picks in this draft. I bet that makes you a little bonkers. Although I do like Brown. Yeah, and I like Brown. And look, we're talking about a 3rd round pick. And so
a little different than the theme the Lions conversation.
Yes, yeah. And Latou, I did not like the Brown pick I'm fine with. The Moody and the Latou pick I didn't like at all, especially when there's offensive tackles, that
was my next question. Does it make you crazy?
Like I have names that I'm putting out there. Like you can't draft Latou if Blake Freeland and Nick Saldiveri and Isaiah McGuire and Adebore, they're all still on the board there. And it's still too important to have a really good offensive line, really good defensive line. And they needed players at those positions. And they went and got a kicker and a backup tight end. So obviously, if just like the Lions conversation, if the players hit, it's gravy. It's good. And so we'll see what it ends up looking like.
But the lack of O-line drafting here made me a little crazy too.
A little curious. The 49ers are really confident in Colton McKivitz at right tackle, clearly. Darrell Luter, South Alabama corner. If the 49ers have been a league best drafting day 3 and finding these 5th round players that are, contributors, starters, even stars on their team. And if someone is in this class, it's probably Darrell Luter, small school, South Alabama cornerback. He's got height, weight, speed, long arms, toughness, physicality. And so that's an interesting player for me. Probably my favorite pick of this class is Darrell Luter out of South Alabama, and not a player I watched a lot before the draft. Watched him after the draft and like, okay, if they found that 5th round starter, this might be that guy for them. Robert Beal, really athletic edge after 5 years at Georgia, never really produced a lot, but he's got 4.4 speed and is 6'3", 250 pounds. So you're just hoping that your defensive line coach, which is one of the best in the league, can get more out of Robert Beal than his college defensive line coach was able to get out. D. Winters, round 6, really fast linebacker in the Dre Greenlaw mold. They've been really good at finding those types of players. So, I like that selection there. Braden Willis, another gold helmet guy, really tough, kind of under athletic, might be a backup fullback / tight end 2, tight end 3 type of player, can line them up, H-back in all kinds of places. Leader, physical player. Ronnie Bell, I don't think he's going to stick. Didn't love watching Ronnie Bell on tape, wide receiver out of Michigan. Kind of a slot receiver, but doesn't have really any traits that stand out to me as an NFL player. But again, he's wired a certain way. And then Jalen Graham, a bigger outside linebacker, 6'2", 240. He looks a lot bigger than that on tape. He might have gotten his weight down to run at the combine, and he still didn't run well either. So I worry about the athleticism with Jalen Graham sticking. But again, late 7th round pick. So 3 of those last 3 guys, all 7th round picks. Going to be some fights for roster spots there with this 49ers class. 2 big themes. One is, and this is where the 49ers have done a great job, is character players, guys that work, guys that will wring every drop of talent out of their bodies. And I think the 49ers did that in this class. But when you talk about players the 49ers have hit on in the past, like George Kittle and Fred Warner, I mean, those guys were athletically really good too. And the 49ers didn't draft great athletes here. That's why I picked Luter, because he does kind of have, he's the one player in this class that has that sort of close to elite level relative athletic score. The rest of them don't. And so did they just get depth? They got a lot of guys that are wired the way that they like players, but not a lot of high-end athletes either. So it's hard for me to see that they got a big impact in this draft. But I think they brought in guys that they believe in character-wise, and that means something, and it's meant something to this team. And so we'll see who sticks.
So I'm excited to do more homework on Luter. You said some good stuff there. I didn't know a ton about him. South Alabama, so that one's intriguing to me. I do like the Brown pick. You mentioned a lot of high character dudes. I mean, to me, while you were talking, I just went to Football Outsiders special teams DVOA rankings, thinking the Niners must have been near the bottom of the league for the draft to go this way, to draft a kicker and what seems like a lot of guys on kickoff coverage and kickoff return and punt team. And they were okay. They were middle. They were like 16th or so. So it wasn't like it was a huge deficit for them. I don't quite understand the logic, nor a lot of the players, just to be honest.
Yeah. They're going to need some luck. There needs, and almost all of these guys need to show something on special teams, especially the kicker, right, to stick with the team. So that'll be a theme in training camp. Who plays special teams? That's who's going to make this roster for the 49ers.
Like you mentioned, like if Freeland were one of the picks in the third round, be like, okay, we don't need anything from him this year, but he may end up being Trent Williams replacement or the right, whatever.
Yeah. It's not just positional value. It's the guys that got at those positions too. Like I thought they drafted a 5th round tight end in the 3rd round.
Exactly.
And they drafted a kicker in the 3rd round. So that's going to be really tough when we don't have a 1st or 2nd round pick as it is.
So last question, and then we'll get off the kicker thing. They saved a lot of cap space with the kicker move, right? I mean, that's really the logic behind it compared to they've been paying some higher end kicker money. That's the one positive is cap relief with Moody, right?
Yeah, you save $5 million from paying a high end kicker in Robbie Gould and getting a rookie contract kicker in there.
But you could have done that in the 7th round.
Yeah, and then in 4 years, if Moody turns out to be as good as they hope, then you got to pay him $5 million too anyway. So
yeah. But
and he's going to have more bargaining power because he was a high draft pick.
At least he's putting it between the uprights then if he comes to that.
Oh yeah, and then again, it's like if he's the long-term kicker, that's the other weird thing about kickers. How come teams don't draft kickers, even kickers that stick when they're young? They don't hang out with the team for 15 years. No,
right. I don't get it. I don't know why. That blew me away, that stat you mentioned about the lack of second contracts with kickers. And we had a pretty good conversation about it, well, now that there's expectations, the guard in the locker next to you is looking at you like they drafted you instead of a safety that can help, different climates. I guess there's a lot of reasons why they could bust, but financially it makes sense.
Yes, yeah, if you can get one. It makes sense through their rookie contract for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's probably a lot of reasons why kickers change teams so much, because then the finances change for some teams. And they're like, we're not going to pay this guy $5 million. Let's go pay this other kicker who's not that much worse, $1.5 million or whatever.
So coaching changes are bad for kicker stability too. Like coaches, like their long snapper, their punter, and their kicker, like
they don't want to think about it either. Right. They're like, okay, do we have our kicker? Let's just keep this guy for a while because I don't want to have to think about it. And that's sort of the thing. Like the 49ers didn't even like drafting Jake Moody. Kyle Shanahan called him on the phone. It's like, it wasn't one of those calls like, oh my God, we're so pumped to have you. He's like, hey, you know how good we think you're going to be because we didn't draft a running back. He's kind of
a real player
about himself. And then John Lynch is on the radio. He's like, well, we weren't doing cartwheels drafting the kicker in the 3rd round. He's like, he said that. Like the GM that drafted him said that about his kicker. So give and confidence is probably the biggest thing with the kicker.
Right.
Already like under the gun. The fans are going to hate you if you're missing kicks. The media is going to write about you all the time because you are highly drafted. Yeah, it's I don't know.
Media is gonna be like Moody missed a kick in training camp at practice. Oh, he sucked. Like he can't do it. He has to be perfect for anyone to like him. I mean, it's a tough road for the kid.
Yeah, I don't like the plan either. You're kind of chasing your own tail a little bit when you're like, need a kicker this year. Let's draft the top one. It's like, have a plan. Figure out kicker. If Robbie Gould's a free agent, work kicker out before. Don't just wait until we need a kicker. Who's the top one? Let's draft him. I mean, that's just a bad process.
Yeah. All right. So
anyway, fun stuff. And I will say the 49ers draft grade, it's not just because they didn't have top picks either, because I love the Cleveland Browns draft. Right, they didn't have a pick until the 3rd round. Like I would trade the 49ers class for the Browns class all day long. I will say though, you go to a good team, they coach you up better. You tend to find a lot better players with those good teams, and like good teams continually find gems and find a lot of players wired right. We'll see what it looks like for the San Francisco 49ers, but not a good grade. In fact, the worst grade in this entire draft for me. And that's it. That is all of the draft classes and all of the draftees from the 2023 NFL draft. It was a lot of fun going through those and mentally picturing all these new prospects in all their new places, and we'll see how they all turn out. We'll come back in a couple of years and see how right we were, which will probably be not that right about who we thought was a great player and who we thought was a terrible player
The Steelers would have the worst draft, and the Niners have the best draft.
Exactly. Exactly. Hall of Fame kicker Jake Moody.
Right. Better than Justin Tucker, right.
Thanks, everybody, for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen every day. We're going to check in on some fantasy rookies, dynasty rankings coming up next week. So shout out to the everydayers, and we'll talk to you then right here, Peacock and Williamson.